Our next guest on America Outdoors Radio is the longtime columnist for Field & Stream, whose musings are generally found on the last page of every edition. His name is Bill Heavey. He's been described in the Wall Street Journal as, quoting here, a poster boy for personal incompetence. What a wonderful title. And he's the author of a brand new book titled, Should the Tent Be Burning Like That? Bill, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Bill, this book is a collection of what I assume is what you believe to be your best work published in Field & Stream over the last few years. Is that about right?
That's about right.
So it's not the editor said, these are the ones you need to get published. You got to choose these yourself.
No, I needed some help. I'm not the best judge of my own stuff, so I got input from other people.
Well, from what I'm reading so far, you made some very good choices. Folks, it is a great read, and there's lots of short stories, as you might imagine, from the columns that Bill writes, but there's some longer stories, too, including the first one in the book that you're just going to love, especially if you're a steelhead fisherman. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and where you live? Because I think it brings some perspective to your writing. I mean, it's pretty clear to me, reading the book, you don't live out in Montana or Wyoming within through your front yard, do you?
No, I wish I did. I live in the Washington, D.C. suburbs inside the Beltway. But I get out every time I get every chance I get. First story that you're talking about was with this Mikey Dvorak, who is like this steelhead fanatic. And the first time I met him, I thought he was a bum because he asked to borrow $50 from me, even though he knew I was leaving in 3 days. And I said, sure, Mikey, but what do you need it for? And he goes, well, we're going out and I need it for a battery for my boat. And I said, I'm afraid I don't follow. And he goes, oh, let me explain. We're going to go to Walmart, we're going to buy a battery, and then 3 days later we're going to take it back and you'll get your $50 back. I always thought if you owned a boat, owning a battery was kind of, part of the deal. But Mikey was all about, what do I need to do to go fishing today?
And folks, you're going to love the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say, when it comes to Mikey and chasing the chrome. Bill, you've been fortunate in that you've been able to travel all over. What's your favorite state in the U.S. to fish or hunt, and why?
I think I've had some of my most memorable experiences in Alaska, which is kind of the closest thing we have today to the Wild West still in this country. I mean, there are people in Alaska just doing crazy stuff and living lives that the rest of us find hard to imagine. I was up recently doing a story about a grizzly bear guide, and I was asking him how many times he'd been false charged by a grizzly bear, which is where the bear comes straight at you, and at the last moment, it breaks off, much like a dog. And in fact, he said, reading bears is like reading dog behavior. And I said, yeah, but what was it like the first time? How did you stand there and go, I'm pretty sure he's going to break off, but that would turn my pants brown.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, how many times have you been false charged? And he goes, I don't know, a few hundred.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around that.
Wow. Well, speaking of near-death experiences, and I think a false charge by a grizzly bear qualifies, what about you? Have you, in all of your travels, had any near-death experiences that you're sharing in this book?
Yeah, one occurred very near here. I was fishing in a clover leaf off I-66 where there was a pond, and I noticed one day that there were fish rising. And if you're a fisherman and you see fish rising someplace, there's a pretty good chance you're going to go back there. So one day I went back and I hopped the fence and I waded out and I started casting. And I thought quicksand only happened in Tarzan movies. But I was in this mud and pretty soon I was knee deep and then I was thigh deep. And then I realized it's probably time to go. And it was very hard to extricate my legs. And I ended up kind of swimming, crawling, clawing my way out on the surface, holding on to the weeds. And I think I lost a very nice fishing outfit there, but I decided not to go back for it.
You know, and I guess if that would have been the end of you, most of your readers would have kind of, read the last column that your editor wrote in your place and would have put down their copy of Field and Stream and said to themselves, yeah, that's about the way I figured it was going to happen to Bill. Is that about right?
That's exactly right. And you want to know the worst part of that?
Go on.
They've done market research, and most readers read Field and Stream in their bathrooms.
It's funny you said that. I got the chance to talk to T. Edward Nickens, and another writer for Field and Stream.
Yeah,
and he told me the same thing. Apparently, you writers put a lot of stock into that research. You all seem to be very proud of the fact that most of us men who read your magazine are doing it while taking care of business in the bathroom every day.
Well, you have the choice of being proud of it or being a little bit
horrified. All right. One other story I want you to share. I understand you're a big advocate of carrying Pantyhose with you on certain backcountry expeditions, which, as you might imagine, in today's America is a dangerous stand to take. Would you care to explain why you're a proponent of such a thing?
Well, I'm a proponent of it when you're on horseback for extended periods of time, and I have a reason for being a proponent of it, which is that the guy taking me into the mountains told me to do it. He said, make sure, the night before we left, he goes, make sure your jeans fit you the right way, otherwise, they'll really chafe your legs going up. And I said, what constitutes the right fit? And he goes, look, I'll make it easy for you. Just go buy yourself a pair of pantyhose. And this is in Laramie, Wyoming, which is a cowboy town, pretty macho place. So I stride into the dollar store, and a guy doesn't want to have to order pantyhose twice. So in a very loud voice, I say, need a pair of pantyhose. And what I didn't know is that this comes with a whole series of questions. So the woman goes, yes, sir. What size would you be wanting those in? And I went, XL. And she said, very good. And the color, do you want nude or taupe? And I said, I'm taupe. And then she said, control top or regular. And I had no idea what those meant, but I decided to go regular. And the last question was sheer or opaque. And by this time, I was giving her a dirty look like, what kind of a man do you take me for? Opaque. They work like a charm.
All right. Well, now we know why you should wear pantyhose, why to be careful when fishing those close-to-home ponds, and what state is the wildest state to recreate in, at least according to Bill Heavey. If you want to find out more about his adventures, pick up his book. It's called Should the Tent Be Burning Like That? And you can find it at Amazon.com. Brand new book. It would make a great Christmas gift. I've been tearing through this and rereading stories I've read in the past from Bill and Field and Stream and catching quite a few that I've somehow missed. Again, Should the Tent Be Burning Like That? It's by Bill Heavey. Great collections of stories that you are going to enjoy. Bill, Merry Christmas, and thanks for sharing this with us on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John. Merry Christmas.